Engedjétek meg, hogy felkonferáljam a következő előadásunkat, szintén angol nyelven, viszont itt a helyszínen csatlakozik hozzánk Mart Aro, aki az Education 2030, The Future of Education előadásával készült, tehát nyilván egy trendmutató és egy előremutató előadást fogtok most hallani. Please.
Good morning. So we talk about the future of education. We should also talk about the good and the bad and the ugly things about what's on the way waiting for us. It's really a pleasure to be here. I just flew in last night, and I'm always very honored to be in front of teachers. And I was just yesterday giving a talk at the Teachers Conference in Estonia, and I'm saying that always getting a little bit of a nerve when I go in front of teachers, and it's like reminding myself, like going in front of the classroom when the teacher was inviting in the class like many years ago, and hoping not to screw up. So, by the way, how many teachers do we have here at the moment? Oh, really great number. So I will try to consider the teacher's perspective when talking as well. So a little bit about my background. I've been in education development for 19 years. Well, this is the time during which I've been building organizations or companies to help to develop something about education. And my most known company that I've been a co-founder of is called Dream Apply, which is a university admissions management platform. And actually Hungary is our customer. So we have many universities in Hungary that work with our platform, and we have also the national system for scholarships is run on our platform. So we are very grateful for this. And this also shows how integrated the world is nowadays. We have 2,400 edtech companies that we have been able to map around Europe, and most of them, or a very big share of them, are operating across country borders. And this helps to improve the quality of educational services in every country, actually. The second name that I added under my name here is that I'm chairman of the board of the Nordic EdTech Forum, which is an association of education innovators in the Northern Europe. And we established it 6 years ago because we felt that it's important for education innovators to come together and to get to know each other and make friends and learn from each other. So the most important thing is not to stay in your dark corner of your room alone trying to innovate education. It's much easier when you are going around and making friends with people that have similar challenges. But let's go a little bit on this journey of why we are here. So probably all of you know this, that we are very quickly having a change in the work market. And based on European statistics, in Hungary, we will be seeing about 50-60% of jobs being automated out by new technologies. Of course, this gives a very new requirement to how the school market or schools need to operate, how we need to prepare people, because 30 years ago, if we finished school, university, we could be pretty confident that we don't have to ever go to school again, because we will be having a good career. But today, it's very likely that we need to change our careers 5-6 times during our lifetime. So we need to be lifelong learners. But I mean, for some people, this picture looks frightening. And that's why I'm asking, but do you know, what was the most common job only 200 years ago in Europe? About 70% of people, in average, were doing the same job. Who has an idea? Most common work that was done 200 years ago. Exactly, of course. We were working very hard to just produce enough food to have our family running. And in some countries, it's still a very high percentage. But in the most developed countries, it's about 1.5% of people that are working in agriculture nowadays to produce food for absolutely everybody. And this is all possible, of course, thanks to innovation. So, and I would then ask, but would we want to go back 200 years to the time before? Probably not. For us today, it would feel like a real crisis situation, because we would lose all of the benefits of technology that we have gained in the past 200 years. Just the same picture from a little bit different point of view. This is a US example because I really liked how it shows out how the job market has been changing. And we see the same trend. And we also see that manufacturing was growing, and then it's been getting smaller again. And this is happening because of automatization as well. Most of the tedious work is being automatized out. So what we are seeing here is that we have a paradigm shift happening. We are moving away from industrial era into information era. Or this is how many people like to call it. Some people give it a different name. And if you look from the industry perspective, who knows more or less from what time the education system as we know it today was launched? If we put it on the same schema. When did we need education system for everybody? Free education for everybody. There's a strong hint on this slide. I can go back to the previous slide, and there's a very strong hint here as well. It was around 1850s. Because we saw a huge demand in basic knowledge. So if you wanted to go to work in industry, you needed to have basic reading skills and basic math and chemistry skills, because otherwise you were dangerous for yourself and for your colleagues. The machines were very big, and it was easy to get squished between them. I've even visited an old factory from this time just to get the feel of what it actually felt at this time. I had my sons with me. My younger son was 12 at this time. And at this factory, it's called Krenholm factory, very large one in Estonia, eastern Estonia. They were doing cotton production. So they hired starting from 12 years old. The factory was established in 1857, so exactly on the same timeline. So my 12-year-old kid was looking like this when he was listening to the story of the guide there. And yeah, 12 years old were hired, and they were working, starting from this age, 14 hours per day and 6 days a week. And they made barely enough money to cover the cost of their own food and living. So if we compare to this, the life quality of an average person, just only within the last 200 years, has tremendously improved, because we worked more than 2 times less, and we are actually having much better services available for absolutely everybody. The health services, the education services are much, much more improved. And also what's important here to recognize is what kind of situation we designed the education system for. And the industry had a very big say in this. So if you're thinking about what you're doing in the schools and how you're doing in the schools, what is still coming from the time that the education system was designed for? And secondly, what should the education system look like for where we are today in 21st century? And today, we are talking about the information era. All the European countries are nicely moving into this information economy. And this is a very kind of general overview of what's happening, how the information economy has been changing in the last few decades. But if we go into more details on the Web 3.0, this is what we see there. And this is the reality today. So school leavers today need to be effectively able to operate in this environment. How many of you teachers have learning materials available that you can use that have any coverage of these topics in them? Can I have one hand? No, because this development has been so fast that it's not reached to the education system yet. And we can argue that it's okay. I mean, the kids are getting enough general education from the schools. They have the reading skills. They can go online and find material. Hopefully they have also critical material finding skills from the schools. But World Economic Forum has made a very convenient overview of what kind of skills we need. And as an educator, I really recommend to have a look at. So these are the kind of general ideas of the skills. I think most of you have seen this in some shape or form. European Commission has also upgraded its policies according to more or less a similar ideas. So we should be teaching general skills for everybody. But maybe just a few hints here. Ability to use technology and ability to think critically are very dominant. And of course, managing myself, because if I don't manage myself, I cannot manage others around me. What is innovation? Does anybody want to say? For everybody? It's a super simple thing. Just to try to find new and better ways to solve challenges, let's say. So, and does innovation work all the time? Mostly it doesn't. So most of the ideas that we are trying out are not giving any positive results. And these ideas very quickly usually die. And but why we still are doing it is that if we are successful, it can have a tremendous effect on the quality of life of everybody. And just to give an example, I mean, probably the most important technological innovation in education development. So who doesn't know the picture, this is Gutenberg's printing press, which was an innovation in the sense that they were just combining together a wine press and a text template, so which made it much easier and faster to produce books, making it eventually possible to make the books cheap enough that even the normal folk were able to afford them. But there is also in the history times where Hungarians have made a massive contribution into education development, in education technology, let's say. And from 1938, the ballpoint pen had been invented by a Hungarian friend of ours. And I left the other numbers in here to just show the time frame, how long time it has taken to do a small innovation. It's like today, everybody of us has probably, I have two even, in their pocket. 1888, the first patent was put in, and it took how many years? Like 70 years or something like that for this innovation to reach schools. Because of course it needed more innovation before it was ready for wider usage. So today or nowadays, as we looked at the time frame, we want innovation or we need innovation to be happening much faster, because the technology around us is making the requirements towards the people that are finishing schools much faster. So because if you don't know the things what you need to manage with in life, it's not very fun out there. It can be pretty frightening. And on the other side of this, education is just starting to be disrupted by digitization. So this is an analysis done by McKinsey for Eurostat. And as you can see here, education is sitting in the very bottom corner of digitization. And funny thing here also is that healthcare and digital government services are also pretty much in this corner. And when I'm looking at it, my question is, okay, these are probably the most critical services for the quality of our life in the future. And why aren't we innovating them compared to the banking sector that has seen a really big wave of innovations coming? And actually, the investors are saying that they are more interested in education investments nowadays because the banking innovation sector is already pretty saturated. But I will just leave this as thought. So the biggest opportunity probably is that we need to move away from uniform offering of education to personalized education. And as teachers, you all know this, the better you are able to support personally the concrete child that you have in front of you, the more likely it is that this child will succeed. Or how do you feel about it? If you have 20, 30, almost 40 kids in front of you, the general education teachers sometimes have 250 kids every week that they're working with. It can be very difficult to offer learning opportunities exactly according to the needs of this concrete child. In parallel, we have a situation where we know that 11% of children are dyslexic, or 11% of the population is dyslexic. If we don't find out about this, this child very likely will feel how? They will feel that they are not very clever, because it's very hard for them to do, for example, the math assignments that are in the math books. So based on this, if we try to imagine the future of education, If we try to imagine the future of education, we could try to imagine a pile of Lego blocks. Who has played with Lego blocks as child? Almost everybody. So if we have this pile of Lego blocks that we can take the blocks that we like and put them together in a way that we would prefer, it would be pretty amazing, isn't it? And I mean, we can combine Lego blocks from 2 or 3 years of age. So why wouldn't we be able to combine our education opportunities this way? And actually, this is already happening anyways, even if we are supporting this in the formal education or not. If the children are going back home from school, I have 2 every day coming from school, they are opening YouTube and they're starting to learn about things that they are curious about. And it's a very good way for learning, especially if we know the research behind it. If we have a strong intrinsic motivation or good quality of motivation, we are learning much more effectively about things that we want to learn about, because we will choose the best learning methodologies for us to be able to learn about these things. So how do we get these Lego blocks, if we agree that these Lego blocks would be pretty great to have? And what I have found in my work is that there is a lot of enthusiastic people out there. Everywhere where I travel, I've met this kind of people that have ideas of how to make something better about learning or education. And very often these are teachers that are actively teaching in schools. They know, or teachers, you know how you could teach something better. And what is important to add there is that we need to find scalable and sustainable ways of providing these innovations to everybody. And how I usually explain it is that scalability means that it's okay to start from one learner or from one classroom, but we need to have in the back of our mind the idea that if we will come up with a better way of teaching something or learning something, then our colleague from the next school or the next city would also be able to use this innovation. And maybe even the colleague from the other side of the world. The sustainability factor by the minimum means that eventually we should make enough of an income with this innovation that we are working on that we can pay fair salaries to the people that we need to do this work. Because otherwise, what happens is that we run out of steam, or we are not able to hire the right people in our team, and the innovation ceases to exist. And of course, this is not useful for anybody. I took a different slide for the startup description, because if you start to look at the keywords here, you see that it has a lot in common with what the World Economic Forum was recommending as the skill sets that needs to be developed. I don't have a possibility to show you. So innovation, possibility to work with technology, leadership skills, management skills. So it seems that we are moving towards a world of startups anyways, based on the recommendation of the World Economic Forum as well. I've selected very few examples of innovations that are out there already. And let's have a quick look at one of them.
Is it possible to learn a language in a fraction of the normal time? At Lingvist, we're convinced it is, and we're committed to making language learning as easy and efficient as possible. How do we do it? Learning the right words matters. Most language learning methods teach you a lot of irrelevant vocabulary. We've analyzed vast amounts of contemporary language and teach the most frequent words first. Learning the words you actually use makes a huge difference. Instead of little details here and there, you see the big picture much faster. Just repeating words over and over is inefficient. There's a smarter way called spaced repetition. Lingvist learns how well you remember words and brings them back for you to review at the optimal time. By fixing words in your memory with the fewest repetitions, you have much more time to learn new words. Lingvist keeps track of your progress and mistakes and figures out exactly what you need to learn next to learn quickly, clearly, and effectively. We're reinventing language learning. Join us. Start learning a language today.
One thing that I've noticed is that there is a tremendous amount of knowledge inside of our own universities that are doing research either on psychology, neurosciences, or pedagogy. So for example, we know how motivation is created in a human being and how motivation is falling apart. But for some reason, we have had so far pretty big difficulties in implementing this knowledge in general education, actually in any education, also after-school education, because the adaptability of the tools or the learning methodologies and materials isn't there yet. Lingvist is one of the examples. I mean, there's many other examples as well that are trying to take knowledge from research and implement it with the help of technology to support the teachers and the learners. So, and why I actually noticed Lingvist was that it was implemented by a small group of American universities. It's actually from Estonia, this innovation. Started by a physics doctor, who had to go to work in CERN, and he didn't know French. And he went there, and he was struggling because the methodology used for teaching the French language was exactly the same as we had in school, which was not very efficient in learning the vocabulary. So he was like, we must, with today's technology, have much better ways to do this. And then he started to look for the opportunities. And today they are saying that they are already about 100%, I might be wrong here with the percentages, 600%, I believe, more effective than the traditional vocabulary learning methods. And the main thing that they have implemented from science is that the knowledge that we have a specific way that our memory works. And that's why we need spaced repetition. We could learn a language this way, that we just repeat the word, I don't know, 100 times in a row or 1,000 times. It's pretty certain we will remember this word. But it's not a very effective way of learning, because we waste a lot of time and energy repeating the word all over again. But if we would just learn or repeat the word before it's deleted from our short-term memory, then it will be much more effectively saved into the long-term memory for us to be able to use it again in the future. And every brain has a little bit of a difference there. And that's why it's useful to use machines that is able to tell us that now it's the time for you to repeat this word so you wouldn't forget it. And the second principle that they have taken from research is that what they talked about as well is that learning the right words matters. So it's much more, it's directly connected to the quality of motivation principle. If I need to understand this at the moment, I am interested in cooking, let's say. So I need the words connected to cooking or recipes. It will be 10 times easier for me to remember the words than if I don't have this intrinsic motivation to learn about these words. I mean, if you compare that, okay, I want to learn about cooking at the moment, but somebody wants to teach me English with rocket science examples. Probably not going to be very easy to remember these words if I don't care about rocket science. I will skip a few examples. And my hypothesis is that if we personalize learning to the level where we are able to track the intrinsic motivation of the learners, and we are able to also understand who our learners are, what kind of special needs they have. Are they hyperactive? Are they dyslexic? We could achieve a level of about 10 times higher quality of learning experience on the personal level of the learner. I might be wrong here, but there is some evidence that is hinting that this could be possible to achieve compared to the education that we are able to offer today to the children. And I'm not saying anything bad about teachers. For me, teachers are superheroes. The amount of things that we are demanding from a teacher today is insane. I see the good teachers very, very often working 60 plus hours a week just to do the basic work. So we are expecting superhuman things from teachers today for a very small salary. And why not to try to support teachers with better quality tools that are able to actually help the teachers or support the teachers in achieving better results for the children. And the other thing is that if we follow the principles of scalability, we might be able to do this pretty cheaply. In Estonian context, we have, Estonia is 1.3 million people. If we would have an innovator who would come up with a much better idea of how we can, or a new methodology to teach hyperactive children about multiplication table. I mean, every teacher probably needs this, but nobody has this tool or this methodology at the moment because there is a very small percentage of hyperactive children. So it wouldn't make sense. In Estonian context, we talk about 400 children per year. It wouldn't make sense to make any investment to help this group of learners inside of Estonia. But if we look on a global scale, we have tens of millions of children with the same need. So that's why we need this international collaboration between countries, allowing the innovations to move from one country to the other. And how can we then support these innovations to move? One thing that I've been working on is ecosystem mapping. So if you have an idea of how to make something better in education, you probably have a reason why you aren't already working on this idea. And usually there is some kind of bottlenecks on the road there. So we can remove these bottlenecks to empower innovators. And on the other hand, we already have some supportive measures in place. There might be some budgets in schools that the schools can use, for example, to pay for these innovations. But maybe they are not very effectively used at the moment. So then we can try to improve these supporting measures. Together with United Nations, we've done some of the basic mapping work. I will not have time to go into this in details at the moment, but if you're interested, more than happy to look at this together. A few bottlenecks to bring out from here. For example, if a child learns something online, it can be very difficult for them to prove in the formal education system that they have learned something. But this is happening factually every day. And if we imagine the future, we can have a quick look at what innovation we have seen in the marketplace. Who has been to a bazaar, spice bazaar? Was it a nice experience? So you were surrounded by the beautiful views and aromas, and you already started to think about, oh, how I can use these spices to make this fabulous food for my family. My argument is that we need something similar to happen also in education innovation. It needs to become a lovely experience to choose the way that I want to organize my learning. And also for the teachers, it needs to become really nice experience for the teacher to find the best learning methodologies that are out there. There is one possibility how we can support this in Hungary as well. We can invite our local people to try to build new innovations, then spin them off as startups, and hopefully the school networks and university networks and maybe also the telco can help to distribute them to the ones in need. Everybody wins. Thank you very much from my side.
Thank you, Mart.